Hello, everyone. Welcome. I apologize beforehand of the noise that's going to come from there. They are going to be switching around, and people are going to be clapping at least 7 times during that. So hopefully it doesn't disturb us so much. I'm going to try to just speak louder, and hopefully you can hear me as well. So welcome to this session on Power Automate, 5 types of flow that can give immediate value. My name is Ásgeir Gunnarsson, originally from Iceland, reside in Denmark now. I am a data platform MVP. I've been working quite a bit with Power BI, but also the rest of the Power Platform. I wrote a book on Power BI once with my friend Michael Johnson, and here are my contact information. If you would like to get in touch, you will get the little email, get the slides, so you can always reach out to me if you want. So first, a little bit about why. Why am I doing a session on this? And the reason is that I really, when I discovered Power Automate, I realized that the whole Power Platform has is very can increase productivity. It can help us to do our work faster. But when I learned Power Automate first, I realized there's a lot of potential there for individuals and small groups or even bigger organizations to get a lot of value very, very fast. So I want to try to show you that Power Automate is easy, and when I say easy, of course everything can be really, really hard and it can be really easy, but a lot of it is quite easy. It has huge return on investment because you are pretty fast at solving basic things that I can then give you value pretty fast, and it can be used to solve everyday problems. It can be even though it's called Power Automate, you don't always have to automate everything, but it can, semi-automate. It can even, help you just remind you of things, which, can be really useful for everyday productivity. So this is a little bit about the why. So just to set the scene a little bit, what is Power Automate? It's a workflow engine. So it's used to run a workflow. It can be simple. It can be very complex. It can, include all kinds of different things. It has a lot of built-in connectors. So connectors are used to connect to different systems, and it has hundreds of built-in. It's a lot of built-in templates as well, which will help you get started really, really fast. And a lot of them are really good just to get started. And even though you are aiming for something more complex, they can give you parts of the of your flow pretty fast. It's a little sibling of Azure Logic Apps. Azure Logic Apps is well, the Power Automate engine is basically a subset of the Logic App engine. So everything you do in Power Automate, you can do in Logic App, and you can do some more things there as well. It comes in 2 versions: cloud flows and desktop flows. Desktop flows are more like an RPA thing. I'm not going to be covering them. I'm just going to be talking about the cloud flows. If I have time at the end, I might show you a desktop flow just so you have have seen it and know what it is. But the focus is on the cloud flows. This is a tagline they have, Microsoft. If you go into the Power Automate website, it says, "Take care of what is important, automate the rest." I think it's I think this is it's true for all of us. We can automate a lot of different things that we do in our work, and it doesn't have to be anything a complex process. It can also be some simple things that we can automate that can give us a great productivity gain. Of course, we need to talk about licensing. It's always something that we need to talk about. Power Automate comes with in 3 different licensing. You can use the one called Power Automate for Office 365. Which is included in Office 365, and with it you can do some things, but something not. If you are going to be doing something with a premium connector, I will come to that just in a second. You will need a license which is different from the Office 365, and that can be bought for a user. So you can have a user license, or you can have a flow license. So if I just head over, come on. Ooh. What went wrong there? Sorry. Sorry about this, people. Yes, okay. So, if you go to the page, if you find licensing, if you want to buy a license, you will see this screen here. So license a user, which is $15 per month per user. And that is everyone, so the pricing, the licensing is a little bit tricky sometimes because you might be creating a flow that is, let's say it will, push an Excel file to SharePoint. Let's just say that. The tricky thing here is that you are going to be licensing yourself to do that. But afterwards, everyone who uses the file might need a license. This is a very gray area. Generally speaking, you don't have to license everyone, but ask your Microsoft representative if you are in doubt, because it's much better to know it up front rather than to be surprised by it. Another way you can license it is by licensing a flow. Then you buy a license for one particular for 5 flows for $100 per month, and then it can be used by unlimited amount of people. So if you're in doubt, you just talk to Microsoft and make sure that you get a license that fits you. If you're unsure if you have if you have the license or not, so I'm here in the Microsoft 365 admin center, found a user in my small organization, and if I go to licenses and apps, I can see. So I scroll down far, that there is something called a Power Automate for Office 365. And if you have Office 365, that's something you do have. And I think everyone generally has that tick on them. But you can go in here and check if you have the tick. If you have this license, what you can do is that you can, in Power Automate, you can create everything that has with connectors that are not marked as premium. Generally speaking, that's every kind of Office thing. So you can use SharePoint and Excel, Outlook, and you can all those Office things you can do with that license. There are several other connectors that are also usable, not premium. But if you want to use things like SQL Server, Active Directory, those kind of things, they will then cost you money. What you will see is that if you look at the connector list, if it has this premium tag on it, it will require a license, meaning that you need either a per flow license or per user license. Otherwise, you don't need it. Before I got to the 5 types of flow, I just want to introduce you a little bit to Power Automate and what you need to be aware of. So first of all, you need to be aware of the premium, non-premium. That's one thing. The second of all, when you create a flow, there are 3 main types of triggers. So it can be a automated cloud flow, meaning it will trigger by some event or something happening or a file being placed somewhere. It can be an instant cloud flow, meaning that someone needs to click a button for it to happen or do something. Or it can be a scheduled cloud flow, meaning it will just run at a specific time. These are the main things. There are a couple of other ones here. Desktop flows I have talked a little bit about. That's an RPA thing. It's something that is you need a desktop client for. That, by the way, comes with Windows 11 installed. You just need to might need a license or not. Then you have a business process flow, which is a bit it's like built a little bit into Datheos. So if you have a Microsoft CRM, or what's called again Microsoft 365 something, if you have that, or if you have Power Apps, a lot of it, and you have Datheos, then you can build a big business process and using this business process flow, it will guide you through how to do that. But it's you need to use Datheos for it to work. So we're gonna focus on the first 3 because those are the ones that everyone can basically use. Another thing you need to think about is that when you create a flow, you connect to a connector, a service, Outlook or SharePoint or whatever it is. When you do that, you need to log in. And if you log in and you create the flow is going to run under that user you used to log in. If you need to change that, or if you need to do anything about it, there is a list of all connectors. Sorry, I didn't want to go there. It's a list of all connections that you can go and you can find all the connections and you can change the actual login information, or you can delete connections, or you can change them all around. My recommendation, of course, is that if you're creating something for yourself, it is fine. But if you're creating something for your organization as a large, you should have a service user created. You know, some Microsoft, Azure Active Directory user that you can use to log into these things. But you can create them first by yourself, and then you can come in here and you can just switch the connection over to another one. There is a lot of templates that come with Power Automate, huge amount of them. And as I said, some of them will solve your problem straight away. They will just work for your problem, while others are a really good starting point or a learning point as well. Okay. Any questions on Power Automate as a general before we start looking at some specifics? No? Again, I apologize for the noise. Hopefully it is not too distractive. So, getting back to my slides. The 5 categories of flows that I think can give you value really, really fast and are not very complicated. They are reminders, approval flows, monitoring. I call it developer helpers. It's just some things that can help you as a developer if you are that, and personal productivity. So more like aimed at the person himself. And it's just what I think. I think of all the Power Platform tools, Power Automate is probably the tool that will give you value fastest. It is so simple, and you can get something done really, really fast. Okay, first types are reminders. Now we all need to get reminded once in a while on something, and if you have a reoccurring thing, then the Power Automate is great at doing those kind of reminders. So, time registration. I'm a consultant. I sell my time. Remembering to actually register my time is not something that I'm really good at, so I remind myself of it. Task reminders, if something is due, that's something that you can really do. Or meeting reminders, something that is going to happen soon. So, as I said, I am a consultant, and if I don't register my time fast, preferably every day, it's going to cost me money because I don't remember what I did very well. And that's something that I do use Power Automate for. It will send me a reminder every day to say me, well, you have only registered this amount, you should register more. But it will only send me a reminder if I have not registered my time. So we take a look at how that could look.
There's a question from chat.
Yes.
How can we trigger a child flow? So if we have a master flow that needs to start 4 child flows.
No. So the question was, if we have a master flow that needs to trigger a child flow, how can we do that? It is possible to do, but you need to create it as a solution. It's just not, it's a little bit weird concept for me, at least. Is that you have a solution down here in the bottom here, and you can put flows into a solution, and if they're in a managed solution, you can then trigger them as a parent-child thing. If you just have a flow in the normal way as you created them, then you cannot do that. For some odd reason, I'm not sure why that is. Hopefully that answered the question. So first, time reminder. This is a very, very simple one, but what you can see is that, or I should have been able to see, is there is a little diamond next to the name here. That means that I'm using a premium connector. That means I need to be licensed to be able to use this. And the reason is that because I'm using a SQL server. What I do is that I have my time registrations are in SQL Server. I'm a database guy, a data guy, so that makes sense for me. And what I do is that I have a view in my database that is just looking at the day before, and it will only give value, give you any any value out if I haven't registered my time. So This one is manually triggered. I have another version of this that is on a schedule every day. But I just, did a copy of it for this demo. It will then go to my database, and it will find a specific view. And what you need to be, if you ever use a database in Power Automate, first of all, you need to do a connection, of course, to the database with a user and pass or whatever you use. What I find with Power Automate and databases is that it will actually need some time. If you create a connection to your database now, and then you go and edit the database afterwards, it is horribly bad at figuring out that there has been a change to the database. You might even need to recreate the connection, or you need to create a new connection for it just to refresh for some reason. And that, I don't know why it is, but it is something that I find that Power Automate is not very good at. So if you're ever going to go with Power Automate on databases, I recommend that you create everything you need in the database first, and then you go on and you create your flow. Now, if you ever need to recreate something, there is a possibility on each of these containers here. You can go on the 3 dots here, and you can actually copy it, the container, and you can paste it into another flow. So if you need to recreate something, you can copy most of it and just recreate only the new this one container, for example. One thing also about Power Automate when you use it, and that caught me a little bit out surprise in the beginning, but it made it perfectly logical, is that when I do something like this, I connect to a database, and this only delivers one line back, so one row of data. But Power Automate doesn't know that. So that's why everything I do afterwards that is going to use any data from this database is always going to be inside and apply for each. Because Power Automate doesn't know if there comes 1 row or 10 rows or a million rows or whatever it is, and it will then do a for each. And one thing also that I realized when I started working with Power Automate is that these dynamic content here is something that is can be a bit confusing. That's why it's really, really important when you are creating something here is that to name those components well. So this is a older flow I created. I did not rename the container. It's called get rows v2. It's because that's the default name for it. And this one is just called apply to each. But if you rename them, make sure they are called something specific. That makes it much easier when you start using dynamic content. Because if I click in here, Power Automate will give me all the possible dynamic content that I can have. And if things are called just default, it's going to be hard to pick out the correct one. Because things might be called, apply to each 1, apply to each 2, apply to each 3, and it's going to be mess in the list here. So call it something specific, and that's going to help you. In this case, I'm simply taking for each and every value I get from the database. I will check if the amount of hours registered is less than 7. If it is less than 7, send the email. I don't want to get an email if I have registered my time. I don't care about it. Another way I could have done this, of course, is I could have handled this in the database, but I did handle it here because it was simple. And an email connection here picks up. So in my incoming from the database, it has the email address and it has the name. So it will just I can pick those out from a list. So I don't have to have anything fixed in here. So it's very, very simple flow. Just get all the times and send an email if they are less than 7. Any questions on this flow? No? Okay. Let's then move over to the next one. So I have a Gmail account that I use for my community work. So I use it for example, SQL bits. When I register and when I submit for talks, I use my Gmail account. That also means that I get sent meeting invites in Gmail as well. I'm horrible bad at looking at my Gmail because, especially the Google Calendar. So I often forget reminders. I don't see them. So I have created a flow that will take and check if there is anything in my Gmail, Google Calendar. It will check if there is anything there tomorrow, and it will send me to my main email address information about what I have, meetings I have tomorrow. And this looks very complicated, but this is basically based on a template that they have, and it gave me everything here except I have edited some things. So it's very, very convenient. So basically, it just runs every day. And then they start doing funky things. I'm not sure why Microsoft have made this flow in this way. But basically, what you're doing here is you're getting the current time, you're converting it to to my time zone. I live in the European time zone. So +1 from here. And then it will check what is the start of the day. So because it's trying to figure out what is tomorrow. So what are all the events that are tomorrow? And the fun thing starts a little bit down here. It will say here, give me all the Google Calendar events that are in between those two times there, which all those boxes above there are just basically just creating start of the day and end of the day, and then everything is going to be in between them here. This one has a filter on all day events. That was my choice to do. And then I just simply, it sends an email about the meeting. It's very, very simple. This has helped me a ton because I live in my Outlook calendar. I don't live in my Google Calendar, but I have things in there. So if you're interested in this, there is a basic template for this, which will give you everything in here. The only thing you need to be aware of course, is what time span do you want. So the template only had like a 10-hour window, but I wanted to have the whole day because I didn't want to lose evening, because sometimes I have an evening invites because it's a community thing, and I sometimes do talks in the evening. Okay, make sense? Yes, question? Can you do the same thing between two different Microsoft accounts? Yes, yeah, you can do that, but this can do most of the things that So Outlook or Exchange is a great friend of Power Automate. It works really, really well with it. You just need to log into two different places, and it will just simply do that for you. And if there isn't a template, it is pretty simple to do. Okay. Any other questions? So, yeah, meeting about task reminders. If you have any tasks that you need to be done with, I don't have a demo of that, but you can definitely check for tasks in Outlook, or you can check for tasks in other systems as well. There are like a million different connectors in there, and a meeting reminder now. So that was my first category. This is reminders. The second category I want to talk about is approval. And this is something that Power Automate excels at. And the main reason is that there is approval engine within Power Automate. It's based on Datheos, but it's included in the Office license, so you don't have to have a premium license to use it. And it's very powerful and pretty simple to use. So I'm going to show you now a personal favorite of mine, but it's pretty complicated. So, but don't worry that it might look a bit complicated. It is a workflow to. No, sorry, that was not that. That was this one. It's a workflow that if there is if someone needs a new workspace in Power BI, I'm a Power BI guy, so I have created this. They can fill out a form, and then we pick up whatever is in the form, and we send it for approval. And if it's approved, we create the workspace. As I said, this is a okay complicated one. Does not look very complicated here. It's because everything is hidden in the apply to each. So basically, what we do is we have a Power Apps that you fill out with all the information that we need to create a workspace. Then we create that request. We put it into a SharePoint list. It's just to have a record of that, and that it's under approval. When we then we send it for approval, and in this approval engine in Power Automate, you have a couple of options. So it's built in. The only thing you need to decide on. Do you want to have multiple approvers? Do you want to have one? Do you want to, everyone needs to approve, or just only first one needs to approve? So you can do things like that in here, and it's just a simple drop down of how many people need to approve it. Then you send it to someone, and then you just have a body. It's basically just a body of an email. In my case, I just have this. I don't really do anything else than that. It will then, if a request is sent, it will then send me an email, and in that email will be a button. It will be a yes button, approve, or not approve, and then there's a comment box, and that approval is going to be stored in Datheos. So you're going to be able to see all your approvals over time as well, if you want. Who proved it, when approved, you don't have to store that. I do store that information as well, but you don't have to, because that's stored automatically for you. In this case, I say then if the first one approves it, and again, because Power Automate does not know if there are many or more than one approver, that's why it goes into apply for each, because there could be multiple approvers. And I say apply to each, check. If you set approve, then we go down one route. Then we ask for another approval from a different person. If not, we update the SharePoint list, and then we send an emails to the people saying, the person saying, well, your request was not approved. Otherwise, we can start, going down that tree here. We did another approval. If that is, we check again. If that was yes or no, you can see it gets, it's like a big tree. This is really, if you're working on something as complicated as this, it's really nice to have a good big screen, because it's much easier to work with. And basically they're saying, if that was approved, then we go down in one route, otherwise we go down the other route. You get the point here. So you can create fairly complicated workflows in here, or you can just keep it very simple. In this case, then I have which is the juicy part, is the HTTP task here, which I use to call the Power BI REST API to actually create the workspace and assign a user to the workspace as well. So this can all be automated within Power Automate. It doesn't need anything else, and these are the only human interaction in this case is the approvers. Another much more simpler approval is time off requests. And in this case, I have a time off requests are done via Microsoft Forms, and Microsoft Forms can also be a trigger for Power Automate. So basically, if someone fills out the form, so if you prefer to use Microsoft Forms instead of Power Apps, you don't have to build anything. It's very, very simple to do. Then now Power Automate can also pick up on that. As soon as someone fills out the form, submits it, Power Automate will pick it up, because it knows how to watch for that. Then it just when it's submitted, it will get the respondent, who was it and what did they say, and then I will find the manager of the person. Now you don't have to do this, but this is something that you can do, and this can be very useful as well. I have used this as well to get the manager in. When I used approval for Power BI workspaces, because some of my customers, they require that there's both a Power BI administrator that needs to approve a workspace, but also the person's manager. So I don't need to know who the manager is. I can just, this is built-in connector that I can just tell me the manager. Of course, it requires that you have it actually registered in Office 365 that who the person manager is. And then I do an approval. And then I'll check if it was approved. This is the same thing as before. It's very, very simple, but very, very useful in my opinion, at least. So what I really like about it is that all those Office things that we have, it can really, really easily connect to all of them and use them. And this was something that when I started using Power Automate, I really, really liked this approval engine, because it's it can be a pain in the ass to build something like this yourself. If you want to do, because it's so easy for the approvers, they just need to press a button, write a comment, and that's it. And then they never need to leave their Outlook. It's just really, really nice. And it will also pop up in Teams if you want that. Yeah, so it's just a little bit description of what I did, and you get the slide, so it's nothing rocket science here. The third third category or type of process is monitoring, and this is something a little bit similar. So some of these categories, of course, overlap a bit, but it's a little bit similar. This is something that where you wait for an event, and then you trigger a flow based on that event. So if you get a file sent every month, instead of checking if the file is there, you can just let Power Automate, check it for you. Or if you need to react if someone does something in SharePoint. Or when you get a specific email, you want something new done. So monitoring these things is pretty simple with Power Automate because of all these different connectors. And I have a few examples of this, but I wanted actually to show you one of the capabilities that it has. Here it is. So this is a SharePoint site, my small, tiny little SharePoint. I have an issue tracker here. This is just something I did for fun. In SharePoint and Power Automate are pretty well connected together. So, for example, if I choose one of these here, there pops up an Automate button here. I can create a workflow straight from SharePoint. I can use workflows that I have created in Power Automate if they have a SharePoint connector as the starting point. And it actually suggests a couple of things there and there, so which you can create straight away. So if I click on this, so request sign-off is the top option. I have never created a workflow called request sign-off. If I will click this, then then it will create a workflow or a Power Automate flow based on a template for a sign-off. So this is just a built-in into the list here. I have created a flow, which will, if I click on this, it will then create a task for this particular item. So this is a issue tracker. So if I click on this now, it will create a task in Microsoft Tasks within Teams, and then it will assign it to the person who is clicking. And how does that look? So where was I? Hit it. Okay, I will need to find it here. Sorry about this. Yes, there it is. There it is. So this is when I created this flow, I used this event thing, which is basically it will start when someone it attach itself to that list. You need to say what list it is, and there's a possibility there. You see the plus there, add input. So what I can do also, I can require the person who actually does this in SharePoint to add some more. So I can say I want to add an input, and it has to be a text or a yes or no or something like that. You can ask them a question. So you can actually have flows that require user input as well. This is not possible for every type of flow. Only the flows that are needs humans to press a button. Only those type of flows will allow you to ask for input, because the automated flows, they make no sense, of course. And it will simply get the item that you have selected. It will create a task in Planner, and then it will keep it on. It will wait. There's a little wait here, because it takes a little time for it to happen, and then it will update the details. So basically, it needs to create the planner task first, and then it needs to add the details, and it cannot do it straight away because the API doesn't respond with it straight away. So it takes a little while. So that's why there is a do until in between here, which will basically just say check if it is until it's done, or when it's done, yeah, it's done now, I will go on. So I've done flows that will monitor all kind of different things. But most of the time, many of us will get something regularly sent or get some event regularly that we need to monitor. And instead of just all of us being looking, checking, just make Power Automate, monitor it for you, and Power Automate will then let you know or do something depending on what you want. So I've also done something which I really like for a couple of customers, is that when a Power BI report gets created, we monitor the audit log, and then when the report has been created, we will send that person who created the report an email asking them for extra information about the report. So tell me the proper description of the report. Tell me who's the owner, what's the confidentiality, all those different things that you can then use to help you catalog your reports in a good way. So that's something that Power Automate is great at, because it can just check for things. You don't need to monitor it yourself. Okay. Second, last, fourth category is what I call developer helpers. I don't know what to call it. It's just some flows that have helped me in my when I've because I've developed things. So, for example, you can create an issue in Azure DevOps. So, you look for a certain condition. What I've done, it's like when there is an email, we have a shared email inbox. When there is an email inbox that comes to that shared email, we will then create an issue in Azure DevOps, because that shared email inbox is just for those things. It's just to people to report issues with our product. And this is something that can be done pretty simply. You can post in teams. Power Automate is really good at posting in teams. For example, when a planner task is done, that's something that I will show you just in a second. And respond to Microsoft Form responses. That's what I showed you a little bit before. So nothing new there. So let me go back and show you a flow here. Yeah, that was not that. Yes, this one here I wanted to show you. So this one checks if this points to a planner board, a specific planner board, and if there are any tasks in there that finish, it will then take those tasks and it will post in teams about it. So it will basically let the team know that this task is done. Because what we experienced is that we have a planner board for the task, but people had to go in there all the time to check if things were done. Instead, we just post in the main channel, and then everyone will know it straight away when the task is done. So you don't have to. We could have sent it in an email, of course, but we didn't want to fill people's inboxes, so we just wanted to post it in the channel that we all work in anyway. So it simply takes when a task is done, and it just looks at the specific planner board and specific plan in that, and then it will post a message in the Teams channel, and you decide, of course, what the message is and what the channel is. It does not have to be the same Teams channel as the task is in. It can be completely different. So there's no connection between those. It makes sense to do, but you don't have to do it. In this case, it's doing in the same one. So it's basically saying, in the main channel, in the chat. So in on the main one, it will just post a message, and you can decide if that message comes from you, the person who actually completed the task, or if it's from a bot. It will then say Power Automate bot send this message instead. You can decide what you want to do that. I just chose a flow bot here, but you can choose something else if you think that makes more sense for you. Okay. Yes.
We've got one from chat. Somebody asked if you have any recommendations in terms of managing Power Automate flows in an organization with many users. Basically, how do you avoid anarchy of everyone creating their own flows, accessing the same thing?
So the question was any recommendation of managing workflows in where you have a large amount of flows, large amount of people, and everyone is creating their own. So what do you want to do with that is that you want to create different environments. So I am in the default environment of my organization. Every organization has a default environment, but then you can create different environments where you then have different things in. So, for example, it's very good practice to create an environment that has the, production workflows in, things that are actually, are used widely in the organization, and then the default environment will be the playground. So that will be the main. You can close the default environment down, but it's not something that Microsoft recommends that you do. They recommend that you create new environments and have those environments very well restricted. There is also a governance toolkit for Power Automate and Power Apps. It's basically you install it and it will install a bunch of flows and Power Apps to monitor for Power Apps. Maybe a little counterintuitive, but that's what they will do. And it's very good. It will keep showing you different things about your environment and how it's going, and it can help you keep control of it. Like with any other tool, there is always the risk of proliferation. That things get out of hand. But it is self-service. It is supposed to work for everyone, and by default, everyone in your organization will, if they have Office 365 license, they will have the possibility to create a flow, to log in here and create a flow without anyone stopping them. So if you want to stop it, you will actually need to take the Office license away from them, or you need to close down the default environment, which is something that Microsoft does not recommend. And again, that's of course because they want you to create a lot of it because it makes them money. But I would rather than closing down, I would rather try to educate. You can monitor Power Automate. As soon as someone creates something, you can then say, okay, this person is now a Power Automate creator, and I want to make sure, or maker as they like to call them, and I want to help them get better. So I will send them some material to how to get better and make sure they do things correctly. But there are so many good things in here that can help you just with your personal productivity that I would not close it down if I could help it at least. Okay. Next. Let me see. I had not shown you this, yeah. So another personal favorite of mine is that when a file is modified, I will do a refresh of Power BI dataset. So what I get to know, I have one customer who they have Power BI Premium, and they have because they have Power BI Premium, they can do a refresh on the datasets 48 times a day, so every half an hour. And what I saw that they were doing that very frequently, so they were like putting up refreshes every 30 minutes of the whole day, and that was because occasionally their data source changed, and they didn't know exactly when it would be, and they wanted it to be available straight away. So instead of doing that, you could do something like this, where you just say, I'm going to monitor the file share, the SharePoint list, the database, or whatever it is, and when that actually does change, I will issue an update for a refresh for a Power BI dataset, and it will simply do that. Because if you're doing a refresh every half an hour, it's taking resources for no good reason. It's especially if you have a big Power BI Premium environment, you're going to be using those resources all the time for no good reason. And because Power Automate is a part of the Office 365, it knows all the Power BI data sets and workspaces. It knows everything. You just simply go in and you log in, and it will just have a list of workspaces, and you don't even need to know what they're called. It's just simply a list of everything you will see in here in the list. This is all my workspaces, and then in that workspace there might be some data sets, and you can just choose them. And this refresh a data set task is built into Power Automate. There are few Power BI tasks in there. Refresh is one of them. Send a subscription out is another one. So if you want to send someone a reminder of a report or something like that, if it changes, you can do that as well. And then you can do quite a bit with page generated reports as well, because page generated report have a little bit more options when it comes to subscriptions. And as always, when you are working here in Power Automate and you need, if you are interested in something Power BI, you can create a new action, and you can search in this one here. It's pretty good search. As soon as I create Power BI, wrote Power BI in. So on the top here, these are the groups of tasks that exist, and then below are the actual things you can do. For example, if I click on the Power BI here, it will then give me all the different things I can do with Power BI. If I chose Excel online, it will say, okay, do you want to add a row? Do you want to read a row? Do you want to do, what do you want to do? And then you choose what exactly the task should be. So there are a lot of these things you can do. Go take it away. Okay. Then we have 6 minutes left. Yes, a good time. Yeah, I have only a couple of more I'd like to show you. So I'm not gonna. I've talked about them, so no need to talk about them again. And the last one is personal productivity. It's so things you can do for yourself. Just instead of thinking about maybe what your team is or your group of people, you can also do something for yourself. One of the things is you can monitor emails. When an email comes, you can do an action. For example, you can take the attachment and send it somewhere else, or put it on a SharePoint or something like that. Or you can take the content of the email and do something with that. Create a task. All those different things you can do from an email. If you have something that you really like to respond to straight away, it's really good at that. You can save to OneNote. That's something I have used quite a bit in the past. When something happens, I will save it to OneNote. This is normally I have used this for if there comes if I flag an email, I will put that out into OneNote, or if I something like that. I have a bit of an issue with OneNote at the moment. It does not, so I can show you. I don't mind embarrassing myself a little bit. It was not this one. It was this one here. So I have this. Twitter monitoring. So because I'm a speaker, I monitor Twitter for call for speakers keywords. So if anyone tweets call for speakers, I post that into OneNote, so that I can have a list of things that are going. This one is also free. You don't have to have a specific license to use these Twitter themes here, and you just write in your keywords that you want to monitor. It will poll regularly. It will check regularly. It's not going to be instant, but it's going to be once in a while. You have no good control over when it is. My issue with this OneNote at the moment is that it doesn't find any sections in my OneNote for some reason. It stopped doing that, so it won't work, this one here. But it has worked for me in the past. So that's why you see these fun failed here, failed. That's because this one is trying all the time to search for tweets, but it cannot post it to OneNote because of my issue there. Another one I use for myself is that I send me an email every morning with the weather. I know it's very simple, but I really like it. So I have a it will just every day it will run, and it will check the forecast for where I live, and it will send me the forecast in an email. And it's very simple, but it's very nice, and I really like it. It saves me for going out and figuring out something, and I can just see it there. And it's an MSN weather. I can just write in a city in there, and it will just figure that out and send it. The only thing that I had to do, so this is based on a template which I used. It will ask me what units you want, metrics or imperial. So if you want a Fahrenheit or Celsius. But in the notification email here, that part is not dynamic. So it says the temperature, which is dynamic. It says C behind it now, but it said F there first. So in the first many emails I got, it always said, it's 4 degrees F, which would have been really cold, but it was 4 degrees Celsius, which is okay. So this is something that I use, and the email. I think I actually have it open here. It looks like this. So it's I'll maybe get the picture here. Today is sunny. 3% chance of precipitation, and weather will be 5 degrees high and low degree 1 degree. This is something I just really like this, and it helped me just to prepare my day in the morning. So this was the last category. If there are any more questions, I would really like to have them now. We have 2 minutes. If you need more time, I will be here as well. Yes.
You said, if I
So the question was, how do you monitor who is using Power Automate? There is a audit log behind this, which has a REST API, which you can then use to use to fetch out the audit log and see who is using it. I don't know if you have experience with, for example, with Power BI, which has an audit log as well. This is very, very similar thing. Yeah. Any more questions? No? Then I would really appreciate if you would evaluate the session, and there are going to be trees planted for every 10, and there's going to be prizes if you do the evaluation as well. Thank you very much.